To be well prepared for Easter, we are making a bunch of Easter cards today. In order to make as many cards as possible at once, I used the Sheetload of Cards, which is made available for free monthly by Call Me Crafty L on YouTube. You can also download the paper I use for free if you want on my blog. My name is Julia and I'm an enthusiastic card maker and paper crafter from Austria. Welcome to my channel, Julie's Kreativschatzkiste. As I said, today I'm using the Sheetload of Cards from Call Me Crafty L. You can find out how to download this monthly sheetload for free on the Call Me Crafty L YouTube channel. I'll link her YouTube video in my description box for details. The Sheetload of Cards contains a different sketch for greeting cards every month, which can be made using a certain number of patterned papers. For example, in February, you need 4 pieces of 6x6 inch paper to create 8 cards. You also need plain paper for matting and decorations. I really wanted to make Easter cards because this holiday is just around the corner and I will need a lot of cards for it. Unfortunately, I didn't have any Easter paper on hand, so I just designed my own papers in the Affinity Designer program. If you like the paper I use here, you can download it for free from my blog. I have a link to my blog in the description box. Mind you, my blog is in German, but there is a translation option available and you just have to watch out for a big black button saying Easter paper Kreativschatzkiste in US letter size. I would be very happy if you would subscribe to either my blog or my YouTube channel before you start the download. I then printed out the papers at 100% scale, so the patterned papers are exactly 6x6 inches in size and fit perfectly for the sheetload. And here I'm cutting the papers. These are now my 4 patterned papers in the format 6x6 inches with which I will start the sheetload. I also picked out 8 light blue blank cards. The cards have an A6 format, which is usual for us in Austria. The sheetload is designed for American cards, so the A2 format, which is 4¼ by 5½ inches. So I'm now cutting these cards a little shorter to 5½ inches. In terms of width, they are a little less wide than the American format, but that doesn't matter. Finally, I chose matching paper in light yellow and dark yellow. I chose 2 different colors here to give the cards a bit of variety, but of course they can also be the same color. I cut these matting layers according to the cutting plan of the Sheetload of Cards. Of course there's a difference in the format here too, because the cutting plan is for a US letter size, while we are of course using an A4 paper here. In terms of size, I used exactly the same measurements as given in the cutting plan, and I was able to cut out all the paper parts from these 2 A4 papers. With a little bit of improvisation, I even ended up with more parts than I originally planned. Let's move on to cutting our 6x6 inch patterned papers. These are all cut in the same way. You start with a strip at the bottom edge. So if you use directional paper, you should pay a little attention to the direction. Of course, it is easier with a paper that has no direction in the pattern. The cutting plans show several strips with widths of 3/4 or 1½ inches, which will then be used later for the card sketch. So far, so good. These are now all the card pieces that I already have together. When planning my cards, the first thing I do is lay out the background matting so that I can then place the appropriate pieces of patterned paper on this matting layer. And this is roughly what my base cards will look like when we're done. Now the big sticking together begins. I take all the cards one by one and stick my patterned paper on the respective matting layers and on the respective space given in this card sketch. I glue these crossbars provided on the card sketch onto the matting layer, but not yet on my back matting layer. On the card sketch there is actually a semicircle on which a sentiment can be placed. But since I want to make Easter cards, I have other plans. I bought the new Tonic craft kit Bunny and Egg, which is number 76, and it contains adorable stamps and dies for bunnies and carrots, and I want to use them today. So here you can see everything I prepared. It's a rabbit's head, and there are big rabbit ears with smaller inner ears, and these carrots with the greens on top. The stamps also include the rabbit's face with the eyes and the snout and the whiskers. I'm now preparing the card, what it will look like, and place these dies on the front of the card, so that I know how far up or down I can glue on my crossbar. Then I cut out the different parts from dark blue and light blue paper. Here again I chose 2 colors to add a bit of variety to my cards. For the inside of the ears I chose a very light blue, and here I glue my entire pairs of ears together. My sentiment will be a Happy Easter, Frohe Ostern from Crealies. I want to heat emboss these sentiments, and in order that I don't have to do that 8 times in a row, I have inserted a longer piece of paper into my stamping aid, and I stamp the sentiment with embossing ink, and then simply push my paper up a little bit and stamp it again, and so I can emboss 4 sentiments on 1 sheet of paper. This method is very handy and it saves me time. As embossing powder, I use a metallic blue embossing powder from Nuvo that goes well with the other card colors. When heat embossing, I make sure that I distribute the heat evenly and heat the paper from both sides, the front and the back, so it doesn't warp too much. It has a really nice shimmer when it's finished. The nice thing about the stamp is that it has a nice outline as well. This made it very easy to cut it out with my brother's Scan and Cut. I did not only cut the stamp itself, but also the same shape from a piece of scrap paper. And now I glue the 2 corresponding parts on top of each other to give my sentiment a bit of dimension. Now of course I also have to prepare my bunny faces. For this I use the same embossing powder from Nuvo and the stamp from the Tonic craft kit. To save time, I always make 2 faces at once, so the embossing ink doesn't dry out in between. And then I can put my bunnies together. Once all that's done, I now have the basic components of all my cards. So I can start gluing my matting layers onto the blank cards, sticking on my bunnies and sticking on the crossbars as well, and also fixing my sentiment. I use liquid glue for most of this, and I actually stick most of the parts directly onto the card, except for the crossbar, for which I use foam tape. Finally, I start decorating my cards. For this I use the carrots from the die set. Here I glued 2 pieces of orange paper on top of each other again, for more strength. I also cut out the greens of the carrots in light blue and dark blue and glued them on top of each other, slightly offset, to create more dimension. I also added a few accents to the bunnies and carrots with my white gel pen. Then I added the flowers and my cards are ready. I hope you like the cards and that you will also try out Kreativschatzkiste Sheetload of Cards. As I said, go to my blog, you can download the paper I used here for free. I would be very happy if you would subscribe to my channel if you liked the video, or maybe leave a like. Otherwise, Servus, until next time.